workshops all over the world in order to try to give the patients or to deliver the best quality service to the patients here in Egypt and abroad. I'm one of the very few doctors here in Egypt that provide the patients with a 4D gynecological ultrasound. This means that we visualize the whole uterine cavity. Yes, we visualize the uterus and the fallopian tubes and the ovaries in order to try to very accurately find or diagnose the problem that is causing the infertility. Also, I'm one of the doctors that use assisted reproductive techniques such as ICSI or IVF, which is a technique that we use to stimulate the ovaries and to help the patients conceive and to help to end their struggle for conceiving.
You have a very special viewpoint here on the lifestyle and how it affects the fertility of persons, either men or women.
One of the things that I'm very interested in, how the lifestyle can affect the fertility. One of the problems here in Egypt now is obesity. Obesity is becoming a national problem, and we are one of the countries that are put as one of the countries that have a population that is obese or overweight. And this can have a tremendous effect or have a very bad effect on the fertility, because obese women, they tend to have a lower fertility rate. They tend to have hormonal disturbances, which could affect their fertility. So I'm very interested in the impact of fertility, and I wrote a lot of articles on the impact of fertility on infertile women. And we usually try to help them to lose weight, not because just for the fertility, because it also affects their general health. Obesity has a very bad effect on their health.
Moods and activities of the person.
It could affect their blood pressure. It could increase their chances of developing diabetes. They could have a lot of problems on the patient.
Now we'll talk about keys to your success.
Okay.
What were they?
There's a very interesting book that I've read. Two interesting books that I think that have changed the way of my way of thinking. One of them is a very famous book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that was written by Stephen R. Covey. And another book called The Secret.
Who's the author?
I can't remember the author right now. The messages that were very strong in these books was that you really have to, every person has to have a mission statement. Every successful institution, the first thing that you will find when you go in through this firm or this organization, you'll find a very clear mission statement, defining who they are, what they do, what are their aims, and everything. So every person should have a mission statement. Our main mission in life, do you know what our main mission in life is?
No. Of course,
to worship God. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So our main mission in life is to worship God and to try to obey God in everything that we do. And under this mission, is trying to become the best person that you can on a moral level and on a professional level. On a professional level, you have to, your main aim as a clinician is to try to deliver the best quality service to your patients, the most up-to-date service. But you have to put certain goals in your life. And when you put these goals, these goals have to have certain criteria. First of all, these goals have to be achievable. You can achieve these goals. Second of all, you have to put these goals under 2 categories, short-term goals and long-term goals.
There's no medium term?
I like to define them this way. It's much simpler for me. The short-term goals, they have to be achievable. And these goals you can achieve in a relatively short period of time. The long-term goals, they can be achieved over a longer period of time. And at the end of the year, the term, whatever, you have to start revising yourself and see how much you have achieved of these goals. Okay. This is very important for every person to start dealing with his life in this very simple way.
Despite the heavy duty of your career, of course, you have a special viewpoint on sports. Tell us more about that.
Sports is a very important part of my life. I dedicate a lot of time for sports. Sports gives
what do you say to our viewers about sports and how to blend it to their daily activities?
Yes. You have to blend sports in your life. Sports, not is it just good for your cardiovascular system and for oxygenation of the various organs, it also provides you with a hormone called endorphin. When you start to play sports, enroll yourself in sports, there's
Not
special
only
hormone.
football for the
Not
boys.
only football, the various sports. I used to play swimming, karate, and basketball, and I go to the gym regularly. This is important. This endorphin hormone is an antidepressant hormone. It makes you in a good mood, and it helps your thinking. It makes you more balanced, more focused. It helps you with your professional life as well. It helps you to interact with other people. When you play team sports, this helps you with interacting with people
community.
around you, social community. And this is something that sometimes we are lacking in Egypt. We don't have this teamwork, and everyone is working on his own, a one-man show as you can.
Culture.
So teaming up, or if you are raised up in a way that encourages you to employ in a team attitude, later on when you start your professional career, you'll always think in these terms, to work as a team. And working as a team is what caused a lot of countries to develop and become more developed.
Okay, that takes me to ask you about those people who inspired you.
First of all, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is our inspiration, all of us as Muslims. My mother and father, they had a very important role in my life.
Who comes first, your mother or father?
The
your
mother and
of course.
father. They have put a lot of work and dedication in raising me and my brothers and sister. They provide.
It's usually said that boys are affected much more with the mothers than
Of course,
the
because the mother naturally she has a lot more time to spend with her children, and she puts a lot of disciplines in her children that really you start to realize later in life. My mother and father, they had a very important role in my life. I thank them all the time for providing me with everything that I required. The other person that really had an impact on my life is my aunt. She's a very respectable professional in the field of gynecology and obstetrics, and she really had a very strong impact on me, on teaching me skills.
And here we're sending them all your thanks.
Yes, I thank them very, very much for all their help during the years.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about ultrasound. You have a special contribution using 3D and 4D. Tell us a little bit about the difference between both of them.
Okay. One of the questions that a lot of patients ask is, what's the difference between 2D, 3D, and 4D ultrasound? What's the difference? Okay, the difference is quite simple. In 2D, you're only working in 2 dimensions. That means the depth or the volume is not applicable, which is very important in cases of obstetrics and gynecology. In 3D, they've developed a system.
We're quite acquainted with 3D, but 4D, it's
I will explain to you what's the difference between 3D and 4D. In 3D, it's a static image. It's a static image. It does not move. In 4D,
for me, I know it, but we can explain it for the viewers.
That means we're seeing the volume, but in a static motion, that means it's still. The image is still. In 4D, we're getting the volume, but at the same time, we have the advantage of having the movement, a live movement at the same time. So you can see the baby waving for you, the baby yawning, the baby's movements, which is very important sometimes in some diseases.
And then what's 4D?
This is the 4D. Yes, live motion 3D, which is 4D. Now there is a newer technology that is developing, is 4D high definition. You see the baby high definition as if you're seeing the real image. And this is very compelling for us. This is a very important branch in obstetrics. And a lot of women think that this is only important in obstetrics to see their baby. It's also important in gynecology, especially in cases of infertility. It's very important to visualize the uterus, which is the womb or the place where the baby is going to be developing. And you can see the uterus and make sure that you don't have any problems or focal lesions inside the uterus that could affect the woman. You can also see tumors such as ovarian cancers to make sure that you don't have any kind of lesions that might develop for the women.
What's this place that we are in today? It's a special center. Tell us more about the place and the activities taking place here.
This is a center of excellence.
And its mission,
attributed to the National Research Center. It has a very good mission. The mission of this center is to provide high medical quality services to the general population at very affordable prices, so that you don't overburden the poor patients or the patients that do not have enough money to come here to get the latest quality, best medical quality service, to have a service where you are treated with dignity. And this is very, very important. And also, one of the missions of this institution is to provide research in the medical field, research that will help not just the Egyptian population, but all over the world.
Okay. You attended a scientific meeting on economic solutions for national problems. Give us some information on that.
This is very important.
And what sort of national problems?
Okay. When we're thinking about something national or something on a wide scale of the population, you have to think also economically, or economics. Economics comes into everything. It's very easy to provide the highest quality medical service, but sometimes it comes at a high price. If it has a very high price or a very high budget, you will not be able to apply this on a larger field of the population. In order to provide a decent service to a wider amount of population, you have to have a service that is also economic, meaning economically feasible. You have to also always think about something called cost-benefit. It's very important. One of the very common cancers in women is breast cancer. So we have to find a way or a solution that is formulated for Egyptian women to prevent the incidence of breast cancer. Women have to have an education to learn how to examine themselves and when to go to the doctor and what's the alarming signs and symptoms that they should feel before that should imply them or urge them to go see a clinician for this lesion. Also, uterine cancer is it is the second most common cancer in gynecology. Also, there are screening programs to prevent uterine cancer, and also cancer cervix, which is less common in Egypt and the Middle East. But also, we have a screening program for cervical cancer. If you can apply these screening programs, you can try to prevent the incidence of the disease, and this is going to help, and this is going to be more economic for the state. It's much easier to prevent the disease than to spend lots of money and employ a lot of resources in treating the disease.
Okay. What about the ICSI, which is the
intracytoplasmic sperm injection?
Okay.
ICSI.
Yeah. And what's your contribution to this field?
Okay. ICSI was developed in the world in 1973. The first baby that was born to IVF was called Louise Brown. And ever since that time, the whole world has been... no, it was in England. And the whole world has been compelled by the field of assisted reproduction, or IVF. It is it's a procedure by which we stimulate the ovaries. And when we stimulate the ovaries, we go in through a very fine catheter, and we start to retrieve the oocytes, okay? And then we inject the sperms inside these oocytes. They start to develop into embryos, and then we reinsert the embryos into the woman. It has a pregnancy rate of about 50%. This is all over the world. And it provides a very meaningful way to help the patients that have the problem of infertility. It was very compelling for me to not just learn the ICSI, but also to keep up to date with all the latest research developed in this field. I'm also contributing to research into this field. We do a lot of research here in the National Research Center, in which we try to improve the pregnancy rate, in which we try to ease the problems of the patients. We try to develop innovative ways to improve the success rate of intracytoplasmic sperm injection, or ICSI.
Finally, before we go, what is it that you dream of?
I have a national dream of Egypt. I really wish, and I hope, and I hope that we overcome our obstacles, and we see Egypt as a developed country, and we see Egypt on the right track.
Come over these harsh
come
periods.
over the hardships that we are facing in these tough times, And I wish that we improve the medical services in Egypt. We provide the most up-to-date technology in treating our patients.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining
You're
us.
welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.